a common strategy in teaching undergraduate anthropology, the strategy that was used in the course that I took as an undergraduate student, and one that I use sometimes myself, is to get students, and again we're dealing often with students who have no background in anthropology, and for whom the idea that this is relevant to them might be a bit of a hard sell. So these students, one of the ways of hooking them and appreciating how what you're teaching is relevant to them is by doing this kind of, showing them what seems to be strange, and through discussion revealing how actually these strange things, rites of passage, there's lots of classic examples, that they are actually quite familiar to them, and that they know these things. They may have even been through these things themselves, and so there's that familiarity in the strange, and at the same time taking things that seem quite familiar to them, like, I don't know, Halloween or something like that, and showing them that actually, think about how strange this is, how unusual this is, if you really take a step back and think about it critically. And the idea is that anthropology is a means for doing both, for taking what seems to be strange and making it familiar, but also what seems to be quite familiar and making it seem kind of strange. That's one way of hooking students. Another, though, and there is an element of that, I think, in the book in various places. So talking about, for example, the lives of these young sapphire miners, which at some level will seem very strange to the students, but when understood in context, actually, I would hope that students could actually make sense of this and recognize that, oh yes, well, these practices do make a lot of sense. But more broadly, the way I've tried to hook students with the book, and the way I try to do it in teaching as well, is even more direct. And that's by revealing to them, or sort of pulling back the curtain on a world of interconnections, of political, economic, social, cultural interconnections, in which they are already very much a part of the worlds that people in places like Madagascar are living in. So for me, then, the real payoff in the book is in the last chapters, where after I've talked about what's going on in Madagascar and how it's all developed over the last 20 years, the sapphire trade, the ecotourism trade, all these kinds of things, the last chapter before the conclusion actually then pulls back and says, well, where do these things come from? Where does the sapphire trade in Madagascar come from? Where does the ecotourist trade come from? And ultimately both of them come from the demand of foreign consumers like the students who we teach, foreign consumers who have particular ideas that they probably share with their parents and people around them about what nature is and what's natural and what's valuable about nature and the natural. And that kind of really direct connection is the kind of thing that I'm trying to illustrate in the book, and have students leave, and through the conclusion as well, leave the book with a sense that whatever else they want to say about Madagascar, they cannot say, having read this book, that they are not somehow connected to this place, and that the way they live and the way they understand the world is not somehow influential on what goes on for the people they've just read about.